can be taken but not given. It is the process of taking which is empowerment in itself. This is Matt Pearce.
Hi, welcome back everyone. Now we've got three topics we want to get through in the second half. Firstly, I want to ask you guys, there's been quite big news to do with the situation in Thailand in the past few days, and they've staged quite an interesting and unusual demonstration where they've half of the protesters of 50,000 people have taken blood and have started have been pouring it in front of the government house and so on. There's a pretty big photo of it here. I'm showing you guys. I mean that's an interesting protest. I've never quite heard of one quite like that actually, and I mean in terms of a pretty powerful protest, it kind of works internationally. But I can imagine if it happened in Hong Kong, it would be heavily criticised. The activists would be heavily criticised if they did that, wouldn't it?
First of all, those people in Hong Kong won't have the guts. I tell you, okay, I can't say I'm representing the 7 million people in Hong Kong, but I tell you, those people do not have the guts. In a way, I'm very envy those Thailand people.
Yeah,
they have the guts to say whatever they want to say in front of the government, but not the people in Hong Kong.
Yeah. I mean, in Thailand, they do not hold back in terms of staging a pretty strong demonstration, don't they? And they think of doing it. I mean, it's highly effective in terms of the way they demonstrate, actually, sometimes. And, you know, I would say to Hong Kong people, you know, what can Hong Kongers learn from the way the Thai people stage demonstrations in terms of peacefully staging demonstration. I'm not saying they should take blood necessarily, but on the other hand, you could say perhaps one of the reasons Hong Kong is so slow is that people they're not willing to really put themselves out in terms of sweat and blood in terms of using a metaphor.
Before I answer your questions, there is a vice versa of those Thailand people, which is some of the reports said those protesters in Thailand, they said, we are envy in Hong Kong. They can fight for the democracy. But in a way, we are envy you to have the guts to protest in front of the government. Just like what they did right now. Okay, it's kind of very interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's a good comparison actually, because obviously Thai culture is very different to Chinese culture, and they it's the political system, the political system, exactly what's going on there. It is a bit complicated, but it's the situation, because obviously the people who are protesting at the moment are supporters of this guy Thaksin, aren't they? Who was kicked out in a military coup actually, and he was actually democratically elected actually. So in some ways you can argue that these the people protesting at the moment are the good guys, in the sense that they are fighting for democracy, because it was, even though this guy Thaksin, okay, he might not have been the cleanest guy in the world, he was alleged to have been engaged in some corruption, and he did some pretty heavy-handed tactics, didn't he? His security forces killed a lot of drug dealers and all that sort of thing without trial and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not saying he's the cleanest guy in the world, but certainly he was definitely kicked out by the military and by the elite, the powerful elite, as it were, who are in control in Thailand. But I mean, it's interesting, quite to see how it will play out, because obviously the military and the people in power at the moment, they are careful. They don't want to resort to violence to suppress the demonstrators, actually, because that's bad news for everyone, isn't it? It's bad news for both sides in terms of the tourist industry, and it's interesting. That they really do not want to resort to suppressing the demonstrations using violence in the same way that the Chinese did in Tiananmen, for example. The demonstrators, if you can guess, they know how far they can push it and so on. And but it makes you think, how many more years is these sort of internal conflict going to happen in Thailand? Because it's been going for years now, isn't it?
I can't tell, but what I can imagine is the government won't use very violent method to solve case like this, because like just for this kind of protest, Hong Kong government already signaled a red flag of the tour warnings.
That's right, because that's for them to do that. You know, they've basically stopped all of the tour groups going to Thailand now. And they probably did that as a result of a couple of years ago. They're being overcautious perhaps in some ways. And but I mean, as a demonstration, that's quite a powerful demonstration to be able to stop tour groups coming to your country. But that's what they're willing to do in terms of the sacrifices. But it can be quite an effective demonstration. But in Hong Kong, for example, it wouldn't happen because people would be afraid, constantly thinking, okay, we don't want it to affect our tourist industry. But in some ways, you could argue, without some short-term pain, you're not going to get the long-term gain of real democracy. And
no pain, no gain.
No, that's right.
but I think
how do you say that in Chinese?
I think the Thai people have to rethink about the infrastructure of the social system, because when the red shirt comes down, the yellow shirt comes up. But when the yellow shirt is sitting having the power, when you have been pulled down, the red shirts come up, and the yellow shirt will take over the airport again. So it's because the military, when the military and the king of Thailand is still there, it never changed, is it? I mean, at the end of the day, because who has the gun? Who has the weapons? Who has the power?
Yeah, and the money, of course. And
the money.
It's interesting, the latest development, actually they're taking, the courts have ordered that, they're taking half of this guy Thaksin's money, actually.
Right.
And they can see, actually, money is power. If those, the people obviously who are bussed in, aren't they? They're getting bussed with loads of buses, they're going down to Bangkok. They've got, he's putting big money into it, but they're going for his money in terms of, as a weapon to try and stop the demonstration.
I think, Matt, I asked you the question about 1.5 years ago about talking the last time when the yellow shirt took over the airport.
That's right, yeah.
I asked you about in the UK, you also have the Queen, yeah? And somebody is taking control of the military. But why it happens in totally different way? The UK people won't do the same thing. Both countries have the democracy.
You're right, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a good comparison, actually. I'll have to think about that because, obviously in my country and in England, the Queen is a powerful figure in terms of, but it's just a